What's up, guys? Welcome to LP Tremors, where we talk all things violent horror. Peter Jones, how's it going?
Hello. Happy New Year. Great to be here again.
Absolutely. Hell yeah. So, Peter is joining me once again on this ongoing Iron Maiden series where we are reviewing every single Iron Maiden studio record going from the debut 1980 all the way to 2021 Senjutsu. And on this particular episode 5, we have POWERSLAVE. So this is coming out in 1984. And hallelujah, there is no lineup changes.
Right.
So even same producer, same everything. So Martin Birch is back in the recording studio once again. And we have the same exact lineup as 1983's Peace of Mind. So we got Bruce Dickinson, Steve Harris, Dave Murray, Adrian Smith, and returning Nico McBrain. So no lineup changes this time. And this is going to continue all the way to Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. So right. There you go, POWERSLAVE. And also with POWERSLAVE, it also embarked on this wild tour. It's a little something called the World Slavery Tour, where they did like a few little shows here and there. They were all around the friggin' world. And that also gave birth to this little gem right here, Iron Maiden's Live After Death. Killer live record. This is known to be one of the greatest metal live records of all time. Definitely a top one for Iron Maiden fans as far as live albums go. Fantastic record front to back. But there you go. That's a little bit on POWERSLAVE from 1984. And we are going to go in depth with all of our thoughts on this classic of a record. So with all that being said, Peter, want to take it away?
All right. Great introduction. Hit all the high notes there. Saw the tour and it was impressive beyond words. And the video captured it beautifully. Oh, yeah. So seeing Live After Death come out was a great memory from that tour.
Absolutely.
Reached number 2 in the UK and 21 in the US. So also there was some things that they did that were kind of firsts for them. They opened the tour in Poland.
Yep.
Which was a first for any Western, or European bands to play behind the Iron Curtain, because we got to remember this was not friendly space at the time. No. Not like visiting Poland today. So they introduced themselves to that area of the world. Plus, right in the middle of the tour, they did this crazy jaunt down to Rio, and were in the second slot behind Queen at the very first Rock in Rio, and played to multiple hundreds of thousands of people. And that introduction to them has stayed with them to this day, as South America is probably the most feverish Iron Maiden continent on the planet, I would suggest.
Yeah.
So that introduction was vital to them moving forward. And like I said, today, that's one of their most popular places on the planet.
Yeah.
So we get to the album. I'm just going to jump right into the songs, because it's all about the music on this one. Cool cover. We'll say that. It's a really cool cover.
Oh, hell yeah.
And of course they took that and ran wild with it with the staging, which was really cool.
Absolutely.
So we're back to naming the albums after a song from the track. That was an oddball in the previous title, but they're back to using song titles. Mm-hmm. And this is the only album not to feature. Yeah, there you go.
There it is.
The only album not to feature a writing credit from Dave Murray until all the way up to Senjutsu. Yeah. So that's an interesting thing we've got going on here. So we're just going to jump right in. Opener, side 1, Aces High, 431 from Mr. Harris. This is a full-on Maiden classic. It's a perfect length for an opener. It's their best since Invaders. I've already been on records that Invaders is my favorite. So it's ferociously paced from the start and just never lets up. Great dual lead from the opening all the way before the first verse. And Bruce is just firing lyrics off like machine gun fire.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is so great.
Yes.
The war imagery in this is just spectacular. I think it is some of the greatest lyrics of any song they've done. And it tells that story beautifully of the Battle of Britain, the British Spitfire, the brave pilots who were securing the mainland against the Germans. The sections got, when you get to the riff right before the chorus, the running, scrambling, flying is just one of the great riffs of anything they've ever done. And it's got a real kind of feel, almost more of like a Killers, from a Rothschild or something like that. It's just, it's very reminiscent of early, but it's now sounds modern.
Yeah.
Nico spends the entire track on his ride cymbal, never goes to his hi-hat, never brings down the intensity. It just pushes all the way throughout. A couple great roundhouse drum fills he's got going on as they go into the last verse out of the solo sections. Steve is just unleashed here. And that would be a trend throughout this whole album. I think, Steve is really great here. And I said, it's a great opening track and a great way to open the album. And all of the lyrics are really great, but the one that stood out to me is the last verse.
Yeah.
Bandits at 8:00 move in behind us. 10 Me-109s out of the sun, ascending and turning our Spitfires to face them. Heading straight for them, I press down the guns. That's just awesome.
Badass. Yeah.
That is just so freaking killer.
Yeah.
There few lyrics get better than that as far as painting pictures or an emotional feeling or excitement or sentiment. Great way to open the album. And This is an absolute concert staple. And it's a lot of times even used in their encore section. If they don't use it early on, they use it late. So just a masterpiece. Love the song. We get to 2 Minutes to Midnight. Adrian and Bruce. Another classic composition from them. Adrian starts with that iconic guitar riff. Nico's great drum licks underneath, punch those unisons underneath it.
Yes.
And again, Harris is all over the place on this, and he's really kind of the driving force on this as the guitars kind of play a more supportive role to what Steve is doing. The chorus is just kind of a full on sing along.
Oh yeah.
2 minutes to midnight, I love the subtle feel change in each half of the verse. It's aggressive. And then it goes to like the halftime, the killers breed, the demon seed. It's got that slightly less aggressive feel. And they even carry that over to distinguish the two guitar solos because Adrian does his on the slower portion.
Right.
And then they build it all up again through the end of Adrian's solo and then just run it straight out, and a super tight ending, midnight, all night, and then just punch, you're out.
Oh yeah.
It's a great song, perfectly written,
song.
And it doesn't feel like 6 minutes.
No.
It moves along at a nice clip. Everything's where it's supposed to be. And it's an easy track to listen to. And again, the lyrics, a lot of warning of impending doom and, the doomsday clock, and is it 2 minutes to midnight? And where are we? Killers breed or the demon seed, the glamour, the fortune, and the pain. Go to war again. Blood is freedom's stain. Don't you pray for my soul anymore. Great stuff. Great stuff.
Absolutely.
And again, another kind of a concert staple. They pull this one in and out.
Oh yeah.
Through various tours.
Absolutely.
Last Word, Biragora. 4:15. Steve Harris. This is it's the last album, I believe, that features an instrumental.
Nope, you're right.
Which is kind of a big thing because they'd had many of them on their previous records.
Right.
It's got a lot of energy. But to me, it is ultimately kind of just a display of licks and chops. It's got kind of more of a Where Eagles Dare kind of riff or feel to it.
A lot of gallops.
Yeah,
gallops.
you know, they're kind of too closely related for my tastes. The last third of the song, I think, is better than the opening 2/3. The unison punches are nice before they return to the main theme. It really doesn't need to be on the album, I don't think. I would have preferred another like Children of the Damned or Revelations kind of song right there instead, something with a change of pace. But the playing is superb on it, but it's probably my least favorite track on the album. So,
yeah.
Excuse me. We get to Flash of the Blade, 405, and Mr. Dickinson. The first of 2 contributions by Bruce. And in this album, one of 3 songs that have never been played live. So, you know, the middle part of this record has not been represented in any live context at all.
No.
2 energetic verses and the choruses, and then all of a sudden the guitars and Harris kind of go nuts.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They're all just kind of doing lead parts over each other until it all kind of tightens up together.
Right.
This is where I have to start mentioning the sonics and the production of this. I think this album just sounds absolutely first class. I prefer the production on this over Peace of Mind.
Oh, okay.
I just think it's a little bit tighter. They seem to be more cohesive sonically. Everybody's perfectly in their place.
Yeah.
Nick's drums now and where Steve's bass sits have been worked out, and everybody's right where they're supposed to be sonically. The lyrics, you know, swashbuckler like, and speak of living and dying by the sword, honor and revenge. You know, more battling and conflict. They must have, you know, they've got a theme going on here. There's a lot of war and fighting going on. But I think there's some of the best lyrics, though. I'm not a fan of the harmony parts in the choruses.
Okay.
I probably would have liked maybe Bruce just to have less of those and let him be just a kind of a solo voice through that.
Okay.
However, it's a good song. It really doesn't go much past the opening riff and some of the guitar techniques in the middle.
Yeah.
There isn't really a standout solo in this one either. I said the unison leads are nice. Steve is great. And just for fun comparison, Avenged Sevenfold does a kind of decent cover of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, the lyrics that I do like, you know, the smell of resined leather, the steely iron mask as you cut and thrust and parried at the fencing master's call.
Yep.
Taught you all you ever knew to fear no mortal man, and now you wreak your vengeance in the screams of evil men. This is good stuff.
Yes.
These are really, really good, thoughtful, in-depth lyrics. This is not just phone it in.
No.
You know, went to a party on a Saturday night. Sorry, Lita, didn't mean to make fun of you, but come on. You know, and so from a lyric standpoint, I think the singing and the lyrics are maybe better than the music that it accompanies it.
Okay.
So strong kudos for the lyrics and what Bruce was conveying in that aspect, but the song kind of didn't help it.
Okay.
We get to The Duelist, and we're to Steve Harris. Second of the 3 songs, never performed live. I think this is a hugely underrated track. Just hugely underrated. This is brilliantly put together by Steve Harris. I said the opening riff is very much like the post-intro part to Phantom of the Opera, and I love it.
Yeah.
There's so much propulsion to it. It's just relentless in its attack. Just like its subject matter. The guitars are just so heavy, and they chug through the verses. Nico's amazing. I wrote down, as he drives like he's on his way straight to hell. I mean, it's just so intense. After 2 verses and choruses, the guitars and bass kind of take over. The riff is reminiscent of another section of an upcoming track, which I'll get to in a minute. But it just keeps adding layers, you know, with the feel underneath as it gives way to the first solo section, and the underlying rhythms on this are just so heavy. But then, like a breath of fresh air, this glorious twin lead comes out of the middle of it, and it just sings and opens up. It's like all of a sudden the windows and the sun came in. It was just from this really thick, heavy chunking to this very transparent dual lead work, which I thought was just great.
Oh yeah.
More unison punches with Nico thundering underneath, and then boom, right back into the track, right into the heavy riff. Lyrics are great. Bruce is killing it here.
Yes.
And I just really love everything about this song.
Yeah.
Dave does his solo. They do a small duel. Adrian does his, and then a twin lead coming out of it.
Right.
Again, I think the lyrics, and anybody who knows me, I'm not really a lyric guy. Lyrics is kind of the farther down my list of things as I'm trying to figure out drum parts and then guitar parts and then melody lines and then, everything else. The fighting resumes, a silent looms, the swordsmen's move against each other, a cut and a thrust, a parry, a blow, a stab to the heart, and you're down. The angel of death hears your last breath. Meanwhile, the reaper looks on. I'm not going to beat a dead horse here because this is great stuff. And absolutely. I mean, that's a great side of a record.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to end that. And I'm not sure why that was never played live. It's really got a live feel to it.
It does. Yeah.
And I could certainly hear that being played live, and that would be a beautiful thing to hear.
Oh, absolutely. It would.
So we get to side 2 and we open up with Back in the Village. Again, Smith and Dickinson, 502. Last of the 3 songs. It's never been performed live. Subject matter, this is an extension of The Prisoner. As The Village is a reference to the Prisoner series. That's where number 6 was being held at the Village. I see 6s all the way could refer to the number of the beast.
Oh yeah.
But it sounds like he's hell bent for revenge nonetheless.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
While it's not my favorite from the album, is the chorus tends to repeat itself a little bit too much and doesn't offer too much variety in the other sections. There is a nice change when they go to the very last bridge before the last 2 choruses, but it's kind of a little bit too late to save the whole track. I thought it just kind of needed something to break up the constant repetition in there.
Sure.
It's just after a while, back in the village again. And he's like, okay, no, too much.
Yeah.
But again, that little change at the end, but still we walk into the valley and others try to kill the inner flame. That little part, if they had introduced that earlier in the song, would have been a nice breakup.
I get that. Yeah.
All right. So now Power Slave, Bruce's second contribution, 7 minutes and 12 seconds, home run, grand slam, all kinds of whatever sports analogies, euphemisms you want to use. This is simply one of the most amazing Iron Maiden songs ever written. Period.
Wow. Okay.
Finally, a brand new feel as most of the songs were starting to blend a little bit together. This one just stands out like crazy.
Yeah.
The opening heartbeat and the heavy wind and mystic nuances that start with this deep, hideous, sinister laugh, are all shattered by this huge Nico drum fill, and off it goes. It's pure classic Maiden. And I'll suggest it's got a lot of elements that invoke Gates of Babylon by Rainbow.
Okay.
And not only in its kind of feel, but in its harmonic minor tonality, that kind of Egyptian Middle Eastern feel.
Oh yeah.
The small instrumental sections between the verses and the choruses is just haunting. Using harmonic minor, like I said, I love what they did with the backing vocals behind Bruce in the choruses. Oh my God. The hairs go up on the back of my neck. I just love it. And that's the littlest thing that I miss live when they do that, because that's not there. I think on the studio version, it's just epic. Epic. And then after the next chorus, it breaks down to this unbelievable place and starts this solo section. Started by Dave Murray, and it's clearly one of my favorite solos Dave's ever done. It is so sweeping and legato, and his tone is perfect. It's not too bright, not too dark. Wah, 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 wah. And I'm like, oh my God, really? That is just so good. Nico comes in, the feel picks up a bit. And once that goes into, they go into the faster section, in comes Adrian. Now he does, and then it goes into this part where they all kind of break down. Steve goes to like a lead bass line. You're like, while they're doing these guitar lines underneath it, and then it kicks in to Adrian's solo after that. And it's such a great change of pace. And then the drum fills come in, transitions right back into this killer opening riff and sentiment. And I just think it feels even more menacing when it comes in again, because we've had softer sections before it. And now it's, and of course the lyric that goes along with it, right at this, now I am cold, but a ghost lives in my veins. Silent the terror that reigned, marbled in stone, the shell of a man god preserved for 1,000 ages. But I'll open the gates of my hell. I'll strike from the grave. Fucking brilliant.
Yes.
Just ridiculous. And I love at the end the way he holds out the last notes, and it's not, it just doesn't have, they didn't just do what they call the crash and burn. They added all kinds of color to it and added that. They didn't resolve it. And then, and like, oh my God, just beautiful. Absolutely stunning. I just absolutely love this track. And just, wow, I sound stupid. So, we get to the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, and I wrote down here, I said closing track. It's the longest Maiden track since Empire of the Clouds, until Empire of the Clouds in 2015.
Yeah.
And I thought, after hearing Powerslave, when I first heard this, I thought, how in the world are they going to match this and finish the album out?
Right.
Only to be completely pleasantly wrong when they unleashed an absolute epic masterpiece.
Yes. Right.
And it's perhaps their most epic in every way.
Yeah.
Of course, based on the poem from 1797 by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, tells a story of a mariner who's telling the story about a ship that becomes cursed when they kill an albatross, and the ill fate that comes to them as a result of it. And, like in some of the other things we talked about, this one also established, when we were talking about Icarus, don't fly too close to the sun. This one has he's all weighted down. What's the matter? He's got an albatross around his neck. It's stayed with our society, and its meaning has stayed stayed with us. I was in the car when this came out, not too long after I'd had it, and my mom was in the car, and I was playing it along, and we get to the section, and all of a sudden she starts filling in the rest of the lyrics. Yeah. Wow. So all of a sudden mom's going day after day, day after day. We stuck no bed, no motion, idle. And so I looked at her and I was like, and she goes, "Oh, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Rime of the Ancient Mariner. You should read more books, son." Touché, Mom. You win. You win on that one.
Guess so.
And after that first section, they stopped abruptly, and then everything completely changes. There calls the mariner, there comes the ship over the line. And then it just goes into this extended section where They do it again, life and death. They throw the dice with a clue, and then they break into maybe my favorite section of any Iron Maiden song, where he hits the "Her Chosen One," and then all of a sudden, especially when you watch it on Live After Death, all you see is Steve Harris's right hand. Yep. And I'm like, oh my God. And Dave and Adrian are just hitting power chords, getting out of his way, and Steve's blurry fingers are just going, and then they join the riff, and it's super heavy. And dun, 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 and this beautiful gong explosion.
Yes.
You know, and we're only partway into the song. Yeah. This beautiful, soft, arpeggiated section that Steve starts. Beautiful little swells, volume swells from Adrian, and very clean chord picking from Dave. And of course, the overdubbed dialogue comes in. After one by the star-dogged moon, too quick. No groan or sigh. And they go through that. And then after that, it switches. Steve was going low to high. Now he's going high to low. They change. And then they get to a break. Chunking guitars. The curse that lives on in their eyes. Bruce is just soaring. The mariner, he wished he died. It's just so subtle. You can just feel it. It's like underneath a volcano, just going percolate. It's not, you know. Then the spell starts to break. You can feel the tension in this song, looking for a place to just erupt. Yeah. And of course, then down in Falls comes the rain, and he lets this unbelievable long note, and they just build and Great stuff. And now they're just completely firing off. Oh, yeah. And Adrian does the solo first this time. But when they get it, and I'm going to mark the number here, fans who are watching this, go to the 9:36 mark. In comes Dave Murray over the top of this. And this is my favorite Dave Murray solo of his entire career. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so perfect. And then they're thundering underneath, and then they hit the unison section, and that's the part that I referenced in Back in the Village. Those riffs are kind of similar. Right. But they invert it a bit. But and then back to the verse. And it's not just like a verse chorus out. There's a lot of verses. There's a lot of lyrics left, but they follow that and they play that out. And I was just like, I was just so exhausted afterwards in the most glorious way possible. And I thought, like, what did I just hear? Right. And I was just like, what a way to start a record. What a way to finish a record. You know, there's some brilliant moments in between. And I was just like, wow. I was just absolutely blown away. It was so good. To rank the songs, I've got Power Slave at 1. Okay. Rime of the Ancient Mariner at 2. Aces High at 3. I've got the Duelists at 4. Wow. Okay. 2 Minutes to Midnight, Flash of the Blade, Back in the Village, and Lost for Words. Awesome. You know, I think this is the highlights of this are stronger than the high points on Peace of Mind for me. And the inner tracks, I think, stand a little better here as well, although they're not as good as the 2 or 3 in the front, and certainly the last 2. And like I said before, I prefer the production of this more. A rating on this one, I give this a 9.25 out of 10. 9.25. All right. Yeah. And people are like, what's with the bloody 2.5? Well, you know me, I can't do 2 albums with the same rating. So I use 25 0.25 increments to keep things away from each other. So.
Hey, there you go.
A spectacular record.
I couldn't agree with you more. This is a classic for a reason. You know, if you ever see anybody's rankings or overall reviews off of POWERSLAVE, God damn it, it's either number 1 or number 2, number 3 at least. At the least, this is a monster of an album. It's hailed as one of Iron Maiden's greatest albums of all time, and rightfully so. Classic record front to back. So now, yeah, I mean, I don't know how I'm going to top your review because holy shit. But yeah, so we go into Aces High, and right off the bat, Aces High, this is a live staple. You said it perfectly. It's either starting their set list or ending their set list.
Right.
I actually just saw them last October, and this was their encore song, Aces High. And I'm gonna say right off the bat that Aces High is my favorite song off this record. I can listen to Aces High all freaking day. I don't care how many times I've heard this track, it's genius. Just from the beautiful chorus that run, live to fly.
Right.
Oh my God. That chorus is one of my favorite Iron Maiden choruses of all time. It's so catchy, so sing along. I love this. And I also love the riff that goes along with this track for the most part. Genius. One of my favorite riffs, one of my favorite choruses. And I have to say right off the bat with Bruce, his vocals are really soaring on this track. And not only this track, but all through this record, he is hitting notes that I didn't even think any human being could possibly hold. He's really reaching up for there, more so on this record than the previous two. He's really, really going for those high notes. And along with that, Peter, you mentioned this, he's just spitting out words left and right. Not maybe to the extent of a song like Invaders or Where Eagles Dare, but he is really, really spurting out words left and right. And honestly, like the same thing with Invaders and Where Eagles Dare. It's not like he's spitting out words just to spit out words, where it just kind of sounds robotronic or a little bit monotones. He is spitting out words, and goddamn it, he is sounding fucking awesome. Like I never seen one man do this other than Bruce Dickinson. So he is genius off this entire album. Steve Harris is, again, I think he's getting better and better as these albums go on. And Aces High is a perfect example of that. His bass tone is mesmerizing throughout the rest of this record. And Aces High is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Beautiful melodies between both Adrian Smith and Dave Murray as always. Nico, I think, is another one that's really upgrading from Peace of Mind from this record. And Aces High is a perfect example of that. But overall, like, this song is just a genius of a song. It's a monster of a track. It has its high points, has its low points, has its melodic points, especially in that chorus. It's a beautiful melodic tempo in that chorus. But yeah, brilliant solos left and right from Adrian Smith and Dave Murray. All in all, this is just a classic track. Great song, and there's a reason why this is a live staple. Brilliant track. Then you get into 2 Minutes of Midnight, and this is another track. It is a great track. It's more punchy than Aces High. I think it really just goes for it, as in it's a little bit thrashy at times, but then again, it's a little bit, it's dealing with these little Iron Maiden isms, these little galloping riffs here and there. I love the opening galloping riff where great galloping riff there. Very simplistic, but overall a killer riff. But honestly, this is a song where it's a great track, but it's actually one of my least favorites off the record. Because I think it's just kind of like it stays where it wants to be. It doesn't it stays in this one little tempo for the majority of this track. It just kind of stays there. It's very punchy, a little bit thrashy at times, but it just kind of stays there. There's a little bit of a melodic point, going towards the breakdown area, but overall, this is just a track that just kind of stays where it wants to be. And it is a great track. Great chorus. I mean, it is a very punchy chorus. 2 minutes to midnight. it's a great chorus, very punchy. But yeah, overall, this is just a very punchy track. But that's pretty much all there is to offer with this track. Awesome lyrics. There are some badass lyrics in 2 Minutes to Midnight, but overall, it's just punch. It's just a very, very punchy track, and it just kind of stays there. So yeah, that's a little bit of 2 Minutes to Midnight. Then it gets into Lost for Words, the instrumental, and of course, this being the last instrumental Iron Maiden will do as of right now. And now we have heard Transylvania off their first record, and we have heard Genghis Khan off Killers, and then I don't think, yeah, there's no instrumental between Number of the Beast and Peace of Mind. So Lost for Words is the first and last instrumental since, Genghis Khan. And I have to say, this is probably my favorite out of the three.
Okay.
I just love, there's a beautiful, beautiful melody or beautiful guitar harmony between Adrian Smith and Dave Murray. That do 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 do. While Steve's
going nuts underneath it.
Oh, he's going 95 miles per hour on the bass, but I just love the breakdowns in this track. I love the chord progressions. It's a very unpredictable instrumental because it gets into that little melodic portion that do 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 that I was just mentioning, and then so it's just going. It's really going all over the place with this instrumental, and that's what I like about it. It's not to the point where it's disorganized, but overall, this is just a very unpredictable instrumental, and I don't think it overstays its welcome at all. I think it clocks in 4 minutes something seconds, and it honestly feels like 2 to 3 minutes because yeah, I mean, this track, it's a brilliant track. I love this track. As far as, but it being an instrumental, it does have to fall a little bit on the bottom three for me, but this is still a great track, and I do prefer this track over Genghis Khan or Transylvania. But all right, so now we get into Flash of the Blade, and I honestly love this track.
Cool.
I love this track. The chorus sells it for me. The chorus, you'll die as you live in the flash of the blade. And then again, I'm going back to Bruce's. Really, he's singing up to the gods on this track. My man, like his pitch off Flash of the Blade on the chorus, absolutely mesmerizing, beautiful stuff. But that's obviously, the chorus is definitely the most melodic portion of this track. If we're talking about outside of the chorus, it is borderline thrash. I'm telling you, it's just going with this dark, deep, brutal riff, and then of course Bruce is singing really on a down, like singing down here. As I woke up chasing dragons, wings of some mighty. And he's just really, he sounds menacing. He sounds
that part I found very entertaining.
Yes. Yeah. But then it just takes you for a curveball and goes right into that extremely melodic chorus. But overall, the song just keeps going like that. It gets melodic at times, and it gets borderline thrash. It's just going up and down, and I love this track to death. Bruce Dickinson is definitely the selling point off Flash of the Blade. I love this track to death, and it's definitely in my top 3 for this
very cool
album. I love Flash of the Blade to death. A very, very underrated track, if you were to ask me. Then you get into Duelist, and speaking of underrated, this is another brilliant track. I think this track overstays its welcome a little bit. It's clocking in out about 6 minutes, 10 seconds, something like that. But I just think a little bit towards the end, you could have cut some stuff out. But overall, this is still a beautiful track. And again, I can't emphasize enough how much Bruce Dickinson sounds phenomenal. And this is probably the portion of the record where he's really sounding his best. And if you thought he sounded brilliant off of Aces High and Flash of the Blade, man, he really knocks it out of the park with The Duelist. Beautiful chorus. And overall, it's just a brilliant track. Front to back, really awesome stuff.
Why do you think the Flash of the Blade and the Duelists seem to get pretty regularly slogged.
Don't ask me. I have no clue. The Duelist, I can kind of see it. I just think the Duelist towards the end, it kind of repeats itself a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. The Duelist can get a little exhausting, like as I kind of mentioned, especially towards the end. But I don't know. I really don't know. I wish I had.
Is it exhausting in the same way maybe Gangland is to people?
Maybe.
Just trying to draw a parallel to an.
Yes, yeah. I just think towards the end of the Duelist, it just kind of wash, rinse, repeat. It's not really doing anything new. So this is a 6-minute, 10-second song. Could have been, 4 to 5 minutes and change. I think
Little editing
would do the song a lot of justice.
Okay,
definitely. But overall, this is just still a brilliant track. Very underappreciated. Great stuff. And then we go into side B, opening up with Back in the Village. And another underrated gem. Like this album, it's just filled with these underrated bangers that we never hear. And Back to the Village is a perfect example. Again, it does kind of repeat itself. And Peter, you mentioned that in the chorus. We really want something a little bit more interesting in the chorus and stuff. Back in the village, again in the village. Right. I'm back in. So he just repeats that same chorus, kind of like the same thing with "Die with Your Boots On," like I was mentioning.
There you go. Right.
Like it could be a drinking game, honestly. Like you listen to the song once, you're gonna get hammered if you're gonna play a drinking game on this.
Signs of things to come.
Yeah, right. Right. See. But yeah, but overall, Back in the Village. So it's kind of a weak chorus, but overall, this is still a really awesome track. And in the verses, Bruce is really shining once again. Galloping riffs all over the place by Adrian and Dave, of course. So you're getting a lot of different chord progressions, a lot of awesome riffs. A very gallopy song. And I think if I was going to pick an MVP off that Back in the Village, it's probably going to be Steve Harris. He is going at 120 miles per hour, right. And he's just, oh my god! Like it just sounds unhuman. It sounds so unhuman. The bass on Back in the Village is mesmerizing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a little bit of Back in the Village. A very interesting track. Just chord progressions all over the place, but with a little bit weak of a chorus. And then you get to the beautiful title track, probably the heaviest and most menacing track off this record. And it opens up with this brilliant doomy kind of riff.
Right.
Like I don't know, is this Dave Murray and Adrian Smith or is this Tony Iommi? Because This is just like it sounds literally like 70s Black Sabbath almost. It's just a doomy menacing riff, and then to add to that menacing type of tone, Bruce's vocals are just brutal. I mean, you mentioned some of the lyrics as well, but the lyrics are just down and dirty. It's just you're kind of scared for your life that Bruce is going to beat the living fuck out of you. But
or you're pissing off some god somewhere, and
yes. But yeah, it's a very menacing track. And along it just keeps going in that little menacing type of tone. That chorus is again with the chorus, it's brilliant. Bruce isn't really going for those high notes as I kind of hinted at. He's just kind of staying in this menacing type of tone in his voice. But yeah, this is just a down and dirty song. I love the solo. I think you mentioned the solo as well. The Dave Murray solo. It's so freaking awesome. It's just a beautiful track front to back. Very menacing, but yet very unpredictable at times. Great number. I love the title track. And now we get to the 13-minute and 39-second epic. Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Wow. I don't even know where to start with this track because it has to be my favorite epic that Iron Maiden has ever done. And they have done a lot of amazing epics. You have, well, actually, it's a very close second. I have to give it to Hallowed Be Thy Name as my favorite, but it's a very, very close second. But my God, is this a roller coaster of a track? So it starts off with, a typical Iron Maiden song where, we're getting sort of like a history lesson from Bruce Dickinson, again, going along with that poem. And, it opens up with that galloping riff that we see throughout the rest of this record. And then, it's kind of like this history lesson Bruce is kind of making a point with. But then it just kind of takes you for a curveball into this epic of a track. It kind of takes you out of nowhere almost. Like it just comes out of nowhere. You think it's going to be this, maybe 6-minute track, 5-minute track. Sounds like a typical Iron Maiden song at first, but then it goes into a very, very melodic portion. Then it goes into, that arpeggio portion that you were talking about.
Right.
And I have no words for this track. Like it just takes you for a freaking ride. It does not feel 13 minutes and 39 seconds. It feels like it's a little under 10 minutes, maybe. Even if that even. But I just love it. I love my favorite part is actually the quiet part. The do 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 do, where Steve Harris is going from high to low, do 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 do, and then you hear that little short narrative. But then Bruce, this is my favorite. This is probably my favorite Iron Maiden moment ever. The curse lives on in their eyes.
I mean, it's pure rock opera.
Yes. And along with Bruce's beautiful vocal melody with that, you hear this riff like this beautiful palm muting riff. Oh my God. And then, oh my God, this is just a brilliant track. But it just takes you for a roller coaster. I have no words to this. It's something you just have to experience. You have to experience for yourself.
And like I said, very few songs have ever created as much tension.
Yes. A lot of tension, feel a lot of suspense.
You just know it's going to explode. You just don't know when.
You just don't know when. Exactly. Yeah. The suspense is mesmerizing.
Yeah.
It's a very, very unpredictable track. You don't know where the hell this track is going. Like I said earlier, it starts off as like a typical Iron Maiden song. In the reign of the ancient mariner, she is high as the south of the free. Again, going along with that little galloping riff. It sounds like something we heard time and time again off of this record, but then it just goes in a million different directions you would have possibly have not imagined. Love this track to death. I always find something new with this track every time I listen to it. It's just one of those tracks you have to experience for yourself. So yeah, that is my little review. I'm going to give this album, Peter, you gave this a 9.25.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go ahead and give this a 9.5 out of 10. This is one of my favorite Iron Maiden records of all time. It was my favorite for a very long time, but Peace of Mind kind of edged that just a little bit. But overall, this is a beautiful, beautiful album. Not really a weak point off this record. Mm-mm. Some slight little nitpicks maybe, but really there's no real weak points.
No, these are some slightly less than great songs.
Yes.
Not some stinker songs.
Not some stinker songs. Exactly.
Yeah, there aren't any stinkers on this.
Exactly. So if I was to go and rank my, the tracks off this record, I'm going Aces High as 1, as I mentioned. So I got Aces High. I got Power Slave at 2. I have Rime of the Ancient Mariner at 3. Flash of the Blade at 4. Back in the Village at 5. 2 Minutes to Midnight at 6. The Duelist at 7. And then Lost for Words at 8. So yeah, that is a little bit of my track list ranking. But my God, there's, my number 7, number 8, The Duelist and Lost for Words. Those are still rippers of tracks. I adore those tracks to death. Just some very minor nitpicks. But overall,
top 3 are the same, just in slightly different order.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that is our overall review of 1984's Powerslave. Ripper of a record. If you haven't heard it, my God, you're missing out.
Yeah.
Classic record.
Where do you live and what rock have you been under?
Exactly. Right. Brilliant album, front to back. Awesome stuff. And stay tuned for next week. We're going to be going over another brilliant record. Spoiler alert. Somewhere in Time coming in from 1986. Peter, is there anything going on on your end in the meantime? Do you have guessing on any channels or?
No, not really. We're just firing the new year up. So in the next couple of weeks, I've got some things that are coming up. I'll be doing a couple of shows with Grant from Grant's Rock Warehouse. We're going to pick our favorite tracks from each of the 4 Star studio albums. A band that can never get too much attention in my book. And then we're going to do a really interesting, deep excursion into, we're going to start with 1970. And we're going to take the year-end Billboard singles charts, and each of us are going to pick our 10 favorite singles from 1970.
Oh yeah.
And wow, that's like having 100 children and picking your favorites, because holy smokes, there's some really great stuff. So I have been revising my list for almost 3 weeks.
Woo.
Oh
boy.
And I'm sure I'll do it right up to the minute. And if he picks something I picked, I'll have to change or whatever.
Right.
And if that takes off, we're going to just go through the decade. And so, but that's great to revisit a lot of these singles from, one hit wonders or bands you haven't heard in a long time. And of course, living through these in real time, this is a real memory blast. So
absolutely.
It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. So definitely check out Peter on Grant's Rock Warehouse. Grant's channel is always linked in the description below. So definitely check down below. You're watching LP Tremors. And to be honest, there's not a whole lot new going on that I've already mentioned. I know I'm a little bit late on my top 10 list of 2022 and my beginner's guide to Aerosmith. That's going to be coming up very, very soon. Again, I apologize for the extreme delay, but it's coming. It's coming. Stay tuned for next week. We're going to be going over Somewhere in Time, as I said, continuing this little Iron Maiden discography series that we're doing. And the Friday the 13th series I have going on with Ron Gavalier and David Gallagher. We just did Jason Goes to Hell, Friday the 13th, Part 9. So that is already posted. I think I posted that yesterday, day before, something like that. But
a fun watch.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. So now we're going to be reviewing Jason X 2 weeks from now. So yeah, stay tuned if you are a Friday the 13th fan. So, but other than that, that's really all I have going on my end. And I'm probably going to be doing some, spur of the moment stuff here and there. But yeah, just stay tuned. All right, so there you go. Powerslave full review. Stay tuned for Somewhere in Time from 1986. We're going to be doing a full review on that. And as always, up the irons, stay metal, stay scared. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.